This is the new Forza 300B2. It's the second generation of 300 watts bicolor fixture from Nanlite and has a bunch of updates compared to the first generation. A wide CCT range from 2700 to 6500 Kelvin and the newly added option for green and magenta color mixing options make this C on a B very versatile. Color output and accuracy are supposed to be top of the line, and the newly added fan control makes sure your fixture is whisper silent during sound critical shooting scenarios. Well then, ladies and gents, is this light any good? Alright, I'll first go over the build quality and features of the new Forza 300B2 and then compare it to the first generation, so stick around for that. And full disclosure at this point, this video is not sponsored by Nanlite in any form whatsoever. This here is a rental unit from my local film gear shop and I'll return it after the review. The Forza 300B2 is a trademark Nanlite product with carbon fiber on the sides and a honeycomb grip on the top. You have yourselves a perfectly placed grip on the back, and the new curved yoke design makes this light look very slick in my opinion. Now this curved yoke is a clever addition and allows for better lighting angles. For instance, if you move a softbox to the balance mount of the 300B2, you can just go much lower. The one-sided locking mechanism is something I was a little bit skeptic about because I generally prefer a locking mechanism with a rosette design, since in my experience this allows for a more secure hold even if you mount like really big soft boxes. But it seems like Nanlite did their homework. This locking mechanism is rock solid and you can easily mount a huge 150cm softbox and it won't move a millimeter. The updated mount for the power cable is also built really well and locks in with a very satisfying click. Like that. Now, when you look at the front of the light, you'll notice that there's some sort of glass element in front of the chip. Nanlite claimed that this is for protection of the chip, which kind of makes sense. But there's more to it, and I'll talk about this in the comparison part of this video to the first generation. The control box of the Forza 300B2 is a solid little brick made of aluminum and polymer. You have AC in and out ports, fully sized DMX in and out, and an on-off switch on the top. The control buttons on the front are in the general updated Nanlite design with their newer range of fixtures, like the bigger Nanlite Forza 720B. CCT, effect, menu, and lock. That's the buttons you got. And then you have two turning knobs, one for choosing settings with a haptic click feedback, and the other one is buttery smooth to dial in the values. Let's see, let's go up a bit with the brightness. Boom. Now, for what it does, this box here is actually quite compact, and according to Nanlite, they managed to shrink the size by 37%. That's very impressive. Finally, there is a new quick release that lets you attach and detach the box to a light stand fast and easy, like that. I kind of like that because on a dimly lit set, this gives me the reassurance that the box actually is locked in and won't kill someone's feet, since it's about 2.7 kilo or 6.1 pounds heavy without any V-mount batteries. Speaking of, you can power the 300B2 with one or two 14.8 volt V-mount batteries. If you only have one V-mount battery available, the fixture will still work at a reduced 45% brightness. So this means you can actually hot swap and hot plug this thing. Here, let me show you. Put this in, unplug the input power, boom, see? Now it's actually without power. I'm below 45%, this would be way too bright if I were at 45% even. Let's put this one in again, take the battery off, or you know what, put a different battery on. And now for funsies, let's take this battery off. I think you get the drill, right? One of the biggest talking points of the new light is the newly added green and magenta tunability. This feature will allow you to match the 300B2 to any other light source if you have the right measurement tools. Funnily enough, you currently can't adjust this in the Nanlink app. There is no button for that. I'm running the newest version at the making of this video, and I'm either completely blind or this is something that Nanlite will probably and hopefully add shortly to the app. Speaking of the app, of course you can control the Forza 300B2 with the Nanlink app. It's the usual easy step of opening the app, creating a new scene, and adding the fixture. You can control the usual settings, aka CCT, and choose between 12 tunable effects. Now I can trigger a manual storm. Actually kind of looks convincing. What's also great is the newer silent fan. I think it's barely audible in even very silent conditions. Let me give you a demonstration, but I'll have to turn off my other lights in the room. This is what it sounds like standing right next to it wearing a lavalier mic. The fan is running in smart mode and the brightness is all the way up to 100% at 5600 Kelvin daylight. Do you hear anything? Probably not. And if you heard anything other than fan noises, I think that was my neighbors. Let's compare the new version of the 300B to its predecessor. Right off the bat, the 300B2 is slightly longer than its predecessor. In a day-to-day scenario, this doesn't really matter, but what does matter is that the power cord mount on the back is way more solid on the 3B102 than on the version 1 here. And this, in my opinion, generally has been one of the weaknesses of the first generation of the Nanlite Forza fixtures, that their power plugs have been on, the filigree side of things. Not anymore though, the new version feels rock solid here. Now about the previously mentioned glass element in front of the chip of the 3B102. I have a theory about this, and I think that this element is a reflector that kind of bundles the light. Now what this essentially means is that you get a more narrow beam angle, and again in theory this should result in a higher light output. When you compare the bare bulb beam against the wall, you can definitely see a difference there. And this shows in the light output. The 3B102 beats the 300 version 1 in every single category. When you compare the control boxes of the unit, the newer design makes so much more sense. It's smaller, much more compact and thought through, and the batteries are so much easier to swap. Now that the power plugs are all on the top of the box, you're way less likely to damage the power cords or the connectors. Even the mounting solution to fixate everything on a light stand is much higher quality. And I like that direction. You get more value everywhere with the Forza 300B2. However, there are a few things I don't like too much about the Forza 300B2. The curved yoke mount could be a tad more curved for my personal taste, because then you could go even further with some softbox configurations. Also, and this is of course my personal preference, I still prefer the old rosette design over the newly introduced one-sided locking mechanism. Even though it appears that the new lock works really well, I would have preferred the older solution on the Forza 300B version 1. I used to light my videos with an Aperture 300D Mark II, which has a similar locking mechanism, and that thing broke after like half a year of using it with a 60cm softbox. Might have been unlucky, might have not, but To come to a conclusion, the Forza 300B2 is a great upgrade over the first generation. Obviously, more light output is always welcome. But with this new fixture, you also get extended control over your scene with the green magenta shift options, which I think is just as important. What really makes this light great, in my opinion, is the added value everywhere. A better yoke, better power plugs, better connector box, better chip design, etc, etc. I like where Nanlite are currently going with their product line. The pricing is industry standard at this point, and you're not really gonna get more for less somewhere else. It all comes down to personal preference at this point. The light output and quality of the Forza 300B2 speak for themselves, and I think this light will do very well in the hands of capable creators. If you liked this video, it would mean a lot to me if you liked, subscribed, and commented down below what you think about the newly announced Forza 300B2. Until then guys, keep creating, and I'll see you in the next video. Cut! I missed! Oh. Ouch. By the way, obviously I would never mount this that high, but I had to do it for the review. Gonna make sense. You catch my drift,